Hello everyone, my name is Natalia Lauk and this is tutorial for Level 2 Theory and Oral Skills Exam Certificate of Achievement. So we're going to start with the first part that says key signatures, and for this one you have to remember circle of fifths and you have to remember how to draw it by yourself. I have a separate video, so go ahead and watch this one, but I'm going to draw the circle of fifths and I'm going to remind you what you have to remember about circle of fifths. You have to remember this: F, C, G, D, A, E, B. And remember, when you go this way, that's order of sharps. When you go this way, that's order of flats. Then, now you have to draw a circle. Okay, it doesn't have to be a perfect one, just good enough for our purposes. Remember, you always start with F. You're going to place F right here on the left side circle of fifths. Remember, left side is a flat side, right side is a sharp side, and this side has keys with lots of flats and lots of sharps. Okay, so let's do this part. F, C. Now we're going with, guess what? G, right? D is going to be placed here, A is going to be placed here, E here, and B right there. And then we can keep going with the same progression, right? F sharp goes here. We're now going to use sharps, and C sharp goes here. Now, remember that C's are 0 because C major has 0 sharps or flats. G major has 1 sharp. In this case, it's going to be F sharp. D has 2 sharps, F and C. A has 3, F, C, and G. E has 4, F, C, G, and D. B has 5, right? F, C, G, D, A, E. Yeah, and F sharp has 6. So all the F, C, G, D, A, E, and finally C sharp has 8. Oops, not 8, sorry, 7. My mistake. 7 sharp. So basically all notes are going to be sharp and C sharp major. Okay, now we're going to keep going again with the same progression, F, C, G, but we're going to add flats. Okay, we're going to draw additional line right here, and we're going to start on the same place where you have E right here. You're going to place F flat, okay, and then C flat, and then G flat will go right here, D flat. So you see how we're using the same F, C, G, D, A, E, B every time. A flat will go here, E flat will go here, B flat will go here. And now the same way, C is your 0, F is your 1, but it has 1 flat. In this case, it's going to be B flat, right? B flat major has 2 flats, has B flat and E flat has 3, B flat, E flat, and A flat has 4, B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, and then D flat has 5, B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, right? G flat, and then G flat has 6, B, E, A, D, G, right? And then C, and finally C flat has 7 when you have all of them, and finally F flat actually has 8. Well, it's not very often that you will need to use F flat major. Okay, and now we continue with minors. In the same way, we're going to start in the inner circle like this. F minor, right? C minor. Then you have what? G minor. Then you have what? D. Oops. D minor, C. A minor, E, right? Then you continue going like this. B. Okay, you finished F, C, G, D, A, E, B, and you actually keep going with that. F sharp, C sharp. We don't need to finish right now because for this level you only need a much smaller part of the circle of fifths. Okay, now let's check how we can use it. So first you have major with 1 sharp. What major with 1 sharp? G. So you're going to put G right there, okay? Now, be careful on the about next one because it says minor. That means you have to look inside of the circle, right? So what is minor with 0 sharps or flats? Right here. It's our A minor. So you're going to put A right here. So I hope for the rest you can keep going by yourself. Remember, 3 sharps. What is it? It's right there, right? 2 sharps right there. Now, remember, for flats, you have to look at the left side of the circle right here. Yeah? Okay? And remember, major, 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 but once you have minor, you have to look inside of the circle. Okay? Let's keep going. Scales. Add sharps or flats on the left side of the note to complete the scale. Be sure to observe clefs. Okay, the first one is A major. Okay, let's go back to circle of fifths. You have A major right here. Has 3 sharps. What sharps are they? It's going to be F, it's going to be C, G. Okay, so let's see. So the first note is obviously A, so you don't need to add anything before that. Next note is B. What is the next note? C. Okay, one of those. So C. What else? F and G, right? F, G. Here you go. You got your first scale correctly. Now let's look at B flat major. Let's again check circle of fifths. B flat major has how many? 2 flats. And those flats are going to be B flat and E flat. Okay, let's see what we should do. So first place flat in front of B. Now find E. So B flat, C, D, E flat. Flat goes right here. And don't forget one more thing, because you keep going and your B repeats right here. Yeah, so you have to put another flat in front of that. Okay, now I hope you can do the F major by yourself. Okay, figure it out. Use circle of fifths. Where's your F? In this case, it's right here, right? And A minor, but it's something new maybe for you. It says harmonic form. What is harmonic form? Well, if the A minor would be in natural form, then that would just look exactly like this, all white keys, no change. But remember, every time when we have a harmonic form, this one, we always raise, 7th step, and I'm going to use the Roman numerals instead of just Arabic. 7th step, we raise it half step, okay? So it becomes, if it was flat, it becomes natural. If it was natural, it becomes sharp, okay? We just go to the right. So let's say instead of C, we would play C sharp, right? Instead of D, we would play D sharp. Or for example, instead of B flat, we would play B natural, okay? So let's count what is the 7th step here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Aha! So what we should do, we should raise this one, okay? Put a sharp in front of that. So it's gonna sound, so here's the natural scale. And here's harmonic. Right? Okay, I hope you can do the D major by yourself. Remember, you're starting on D, the next note is E, and again, you will need circle of fifths to help you to figure out the rest. Okay, let's keep going. Well, intervals, you already know probably. It's pretty simple. You just need to count lines and spaces. So if that's your first, your next line is 2, that's 3, that's 4, okay? You're gonna write 4th, okay? So the only tricky place, remember, ignore sharps and flats right now, because it's not going to change the size of interval. Yeah, 7 is just going to keep being 7. So just keep in mind that ledger lines are a little bit tricky. Ledger lines, it's additional lines for the notes. And in this case, that's your 1, that's your 2, that's your 3, the space is your 4, and line is your 5, okay? So keep in mind that. Now let's look at chords. What are the 1, 4, and 5? That's actually Roman numeral 1, that's Roman numeral 4, and that's Roman numeral 5. Because those triads we use the most often, like for example, happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you. Okay, we use 1, 2, 5, 5, 2, 1, 1, 2, 4, 1, 5, 1, okay? So those are steps in scales, okay? So 1, for example, in C major, so chord of first step is going to be C, E, and G, right? And we call it the chord of first step. Chord of 4th step in C major, for example, is going to be, if you count 4 from C, C is 1, D is 2, E is 3, F is your 4, so F would be your 4, right? And you would build the triad on that, F, A, and C, right? And the chord is the chord of 5th step, so let's count again. C is your 1, D is your 2, E is your 3, F is your 4, G is your 5, okay? So you write G, and you build another triad upon that. So in this case, we use Roman numerals, but we call them primary triads because we use them the most often. Okay, now let's move on to triads. Write the name of each of the triad below and indicate if they major or minor. I believe we had the same thing level before that, level 1, but let's review, okay? Remember, in order to tell if the triad fits major or minor, you either have to count whole step and half steps, or you can actually look at the circle of C. So let's actually do both. Remember, major triad, major starts with the, so for example, C major, right? Between C and E, you will have 2 whole steps, right? Let me show you how it's done. Let's go back. So here's C and here's E, and between C and D it's a whole step because you can fit 1 more key, and between D and E another whole step because you can fit 1 more key there, right? So now we probably should actually start using another way of doing that. We're gonna use circle of fifths, okay? Because it's actually more useful. Okay, let's look at the first one. So you have first note, right? So if you remember this line called G line, what is above that? That's A, okay? So that's what you're gonna write is A right here, okay? And now you have to think about this note because that defines if the triad is going to be major or minor. So the note you have here is C, but it's not just C because of the sharp, it's actually C sharp. Okay, let's look at the circle of fifths and see if A major has C sharp. Okay, let's look at this. So A major has 3 sharp and it's F sharp, C sharp. So in A major, your C is actually sharp. So you can just very easily say major. That's it. Okay, let's look at the next one. So look at the first note. Again, remember if that's G, that's A, that's your B, but not just B, it's a B flat. Okay, that's your first. Now you have to think between B flat and this note is D, right? Between B flat and D, does it fit B flat major scale or B flat minor scale? Let's check. Okay, so you have to, so B flat is already flat, right? So that's going to be your key. And think, is D natural? In this case, it's D natural. Is it going to be natural or sharp or flat? Let's look at B flat. So B flat, right, has 2 flats. It has B flat and E flat. And D is just natural. So it fits the natural, it fits major scale in this case, okay? Major. So go ahead and try to do the rest yourself. So remember, the first note is going to be the name of the note, and this note is going to tell you if this triad major or minor. Let's actually do this one as well. Okay, so the first note you probably already know. Remember, if the second line is G, below that is F, right? And now you have A right here, but it's not just A, it's A flat, okay? Now let's check. Maybe it's F major that has A flat. Let's check. Let's go back to circle of fifths. So F major has 1 flat and it's a B flat. Well, here you go. So it doesn't fit the F major. Let's check if it fits F minor. So F minor is right here. It has 4 flats, which is B flat, E flat, A flat. So A is actually going to be flat in this case. Okay, so F minor. Okay, so the rest, I'm going to trust you to do the rest by yourself. Roman numeral, circle the Roman numeral for each triad below. Let me remind you that that means 1, that means 4, and that means 5, if you didn't know. Now, here's the few steps that you have to do. So that says for you, key of D major. Well, you already know it if you know your circle of fifths. So now you have to think in D major, this note, this bottom note, is it the first one, 4, or 5th one? So you know that's a G. So if you start counting in D major, right, you can just go back to the, this one here is D, right? D is your 1, E is your 2, then you have F sharp, you probably know, that's 3, and that's your 4, okay? So G actually is your 4th note, okay? So in this case, you're going to circle what? You're going to circle this because that's 4. Now let's look at this one, F major, okay? And you have this triad. Let's check what is this note. So remember, if this is G, this is A, this is B, this is C, okay? And if F major, what is C? Is not definitely not 1. Let's check if it's a 4 or 5. Okay, let's go and check. So let me actually erase a few things so we're not, it's not too complicated here. So F is your 1, yeah, that's your 1, G is your 2, that's your 3, B flat actually your 4 because the F major has B flat, and C is your 5, okay? You can also use just the alphabet, you know. Let me actually show you the alphabet method in this case, okay? So, well, let me just redo it again so you can understand it better. So if you just write alphabet like this, A, B, C, D, E, oops, F, E, F, G, right? And you know this note is C, right? So go ahead and count from C. You have to count to the left. So, and you need to, oh, sorry, you actually need to count from F. So F is your 1, G is your 2, A is your 3, B is your 4, or B flat in this case, and C is your 5. So you've got to circle this one. I hope it's not too complicated. It might not make sense right now, but if you do it one more time, it might starting, you know, you might start to figure it out, okay? Again, so let me write the alphabet for you. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. That's our musical alphabet, right? So now you have B flat major. Okay, now let's look at this one. Okay, this note is actually E, but in this case it's E flat because of the flat here, right? It's E flat. So now let's start counting from B, okay? B is your 1, C is your 2, D is your 3, E, or E flat, is your 4. So you've got to circle 4. Okay, I'm going to trust you that you're going to figure out G major and A major by yourself. Okay, let's move on to scale degrees. Kind of the same thing that Roman numeral to find the, because we musicians will like to call same things different names. Okay, dominant. I'm gonna just remind you that the names of the Roman numerals, okay? So the first step of the scale, we call it tonic, okay? Second one, we call it supertonic. I'm just gonna write ST, supertonic. The third one, we call it mediant. Fourth one, we call it subdominant, SD. Fifth, we call dominant, okay? Sixth, we call submediant. And the last one, the seventh one, we call leading tone, okay? And the numbers for those are 1, 2, 3, that's 4, subdominant, dominant is 5, submediant is 6, okay? And leading tone is 7. That's how Roman numerals are looking like. Kind of finger, like well, tonic is 1 finger, supertonic is 2 fingers, and then median is 3 fingers. Okay, let's look at the dominant D right there. So this is 5, so you should circle 5. Go ahead and figure out the rest by yourself. Okay, write the name of each cadence, choose from authentic, half, or plagal 3 points. Well, I've got to remind you that authentic, it's when you're going from 5 to 1. It's most common one. When you're playing, for example, happy birthday to you, 5 to 1, okay? Half, it's when you're staying on 5. It's like happy birthday to, and you never go to you. Never, ever, because you just stay on 5, okay? And plagal is finally, doesn't give you such a strong sense of arrival as the authentic one. Just listen to it. Happy birthday to you. Do you see how it's different from authentic? Here's authentic, 5 to 1. To you, very strong sense of arrival, like you're home. But here's plagal. To you, yeah, not so strong. And plagal, it's when you're going from 4th step of scale to 1st step of scale. Okay, judging by that, you should be able to do this one, and this one by yourself. Just use this as your key to answering. Okay, rhythms. Add the total number of beats in each example in 4. So wording is a little bit of confusing, but basically you have to count the number of beats in each example. That's it. You don't, I mean, yeah, that's what means add up. I would say that's a little bit confusing. So In this case, you just have to remember your rhythms and you have to remember the note lengths. I've got to remind you that this means 4 beats as well as the rest. Rest is this one, okay? Then this means 2 beats and the rest looks like this, okay? Quarter note means 1 beat and the rest looks like this. Well, I didn't do a very good job drawing that, but anyway, it's like a little bit of zigzag. Okay, then 8th note is a half of the beat, right? And it's the rest looks like this. Also, when you joining the 8th note like this, beaming that together, so when it's half plus half, right, equals what? Equals 1, right? Okay. And I've got to remind you also, whenever you add to a note, for example, that was 2 beats, and if you add a dot to that, that's going to have a half of this. So you had 2 beats, right? And now you're adding the half of 2, which is 1. In this case, it's going to equal 3 beats, right? And if you have something like this, the dotted quarter note, you had 1, right? And now you have 1 plus half of the 1. So you have 1.5 beats. Okay, let's try to do this one. So what do you have? You have dotted quarter note. Well, you can try to ignore the dot if you want and say, well, I have 1, yeah? Now I have a dot, which is equal half of the beat, right? Then I have an 8th note, that's another half of the beat, so which makes it together 2 beats. And now I have this rest, which is equals 2. So you have 1 plus half plus half plus 2, right? Well, if you put 2 halves together, what are you going to get? You're going to get actually 1. So you have 1, oops, let me do a better job. 1 plus 1 plus 2, right? Sorry, not very good. So what is it equal to? Is equal 4. So that's what you're going to write down here. Okay, so basically use this as your reference and try to do B, C, and D by yourself. Well, again, this one is going to be pretty easy because you already have the table right there. Rhythm boxes. As a single note to each box to complete the example. Okay, let's look what kind of single note we can add here. Well, first of all, you got to check out how many beats in the measure you have and how much length they each gets. Okay, so you have 3 quarter notes. So you already get your first quarter note, right? Now you have your second quarter note right here. So you have 1 plus 1, you have 2 beats together, right? And now you have a half of the beat. So you have 1 plus half of the beat. So you need another, to get to a 3, you need another half of the beat, right? What is the half of the beat? It's an 8th note. So you're going to draw an 8th note here. Hopefully that makes sense. So go ahead and try to complete this part and this part without me helping, okay? Remember, just remember that 8th notes can be written like this or like this, 2 8th notes, and remember it's just the same thing. It's 2 half of the beat, right? Together, put 2 halves, it's going to make 1 full beat, okay? Let's move on. Oh, definitions, that's fun. So by that time, you probably know most of them, but I'm going to remind you if you don't. So the first one called andante, and it's a walking tempo. The next one is vivace, not vivace, because it's not an English word, it's an Italian word, vivace, and it's a quick, lively tempo. The next one called sforzando, it's a sudden accent. Fortissima is not forte forte, it's fortissimo, fortissimo. Very big forte, okay? Allegro is a fast tempo because it basically means happy in Italian. Sequence. So I'm going to give you an example of the sequence. So what do you have? You have a piece of the melody that kind of keep repeating on the difference, starting like higher or lower, for example, every time, right? So that's a repeating pattern of what? Same notes or the different tones? What do you think? Let's actually look it up because sometimes wording can be confusing and I don't want to make mistake in this case, just telling you. Okay, let's open up the answer key and let's make sure that's a correct one. Yeah, so if you think of repeating patterns of the same tones, just imagine, same tones, right? It would be, that's the same tone. So that means a repeating pattern of different tones, sequence. Accidental is not a musical mistake. It's a sharp or flat or a natural sign. We call them accidental. Okay, moderato is the moderate tempo. Okay, now page 6 is a kind of difficult one because you have to use everything you learned so far. How fast will the music will be played? It says moderato. Do you think you can guess? What is moderato? It's very close to the same English word. In what key piece is written? Well, you have to use circle of fifths. Do you see any sharps or flats here? No, you don't. Go to the circle of fifths. Find the key, major key, with 0 sharps or flats. You probably can do that. Okay. Now, let's look at name each boxed interval. Well, this is supposed to be easy for you. Remember, you just have to count lines and spaces. So in this case, you have 1 and 2. You're going to put 2, okay? Name the box chord and measure 3. Okay, let's look at box chord and measure 3. Let's see. So you have low C, right? You have, because remember that's the G, F line in bass clef, that's a G. Now you have E and you have another G. Well, if you play it on the keyboard, if you remember how your hands look like on the keyboard, let me actually just, so what do you have? You have C, right? E and G, those 3 notes. What are they gonna make? What do they look like? They actually look like C major chord, right? I hope by this time you already know what a C major chord looks like. So that's what you're gonna put in your answer. It's a C major. Okay, what is another way to write the time signature? Well, whenever you see this, that also stands for common time, and most common time is this one, 4/4, which accidentally is used in measure 5. Let's look at measure 5. Well, here's the measure 5. Here's the accidental. I think you can answer this question. They're giving you the very like sharp natural flat. That should be very easy. Okay, now let's check the oral skills. So for this one, I think you should be able to do the chords. I'm just going to help you out with understanding how this sounds. So, for example, that's the major chord. Feels open, sunny, happy, okay? Here's the minor chord. Feels a little bit more closed up, kind of more crowded, more way sadder, okay? Let me play for you, keep playing for you. What do you think is this one? That's a major one. How about this one? That's a minor one, okay? Now I'm going to play them out of order. Okay, that's a minor one, right? How about this one? Still a minor one. How about this one? Sunny, right? That's a major. Okay, so for rhythms, what I'm going to ask you to do before you do this, because it's a 3, 4, and 4, 4, go ahead and write this 1 and 2 and 3, and then start here again, 1 and 2 and 3, and for 4/4 it's going to be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and whenever they're going to play the example, I want you to kind of count along, because in this case it's going to be much easier for you to get what they actually want you to hear. Okay, I'm going to play it on my phone. Okay. Oops. Here's the rhythm. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, right? In this example, they give you 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Number 3.
Okay?
Listen.
So this is just like very quick instruction. As of intervals, so remember you only got seconds, fifths, or octaves. So let me give you the difference between seconds. So seconds are very close to each other, right? So for example, if you look at the keyboard, I'm going to erase that, right? So second, for example, it's this to this, or this to this. Let me play how it sounds. So it sounds very close, kind of scaring together, right? So now for example, the difference is octaves, right? This one to this one, C to C. Sounds very open, very hollow and wide, okay, because the space is so wide, right? So another example of octave, for example, F sharp to F sharp, right? Okay. And finally, a fifth, again, it's going to sound kind of open and wide, but not so much, not as much as octave, because this is the distance. Whenever you hear twinkle, twinkle, that's your interval of fifth, right? Another twinkle, twinkle, another interval of fifth, okay? So hopefully that's going to help you to hear the difference between those intervals. Remember, and let's say if the first one, the first note is given, and the next one they play is this one. Do you feel how close they are? So it's going to be interval of the second in this case, right? But if they play something like this, they play this note and then they give you, yeah. Do you see how different is this? How open? So that's actually an octave, this one, from D to D. And if you have a fifth, for example, right? And how can you find out how to write a fifth? So this is your 1, this is your 2, this is 3, that's your 5, right? So your A is going to be your 5 in this case. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, the next one says, write one missing note in each box. Well, again, you're going to have either notes repeating like this, right? In this case, that would be just another A. Or you might have notes going up or going down. So, for example, you play G, G, A. In this case, you return to G, right? You might have notes keep going up. For example, G, G, A, B. In this case, you would write a B, okay? So, and the last one should be fairly easy for you. Circle the melody that you hear, okay? They either going to give you this one or this one, and look at the differences. So the first one goes G, G, A. This one is G, G, A, and then it goes da, da, da. And this goes ba, da, da, right? So you gotta hear those differences and look at the contour, okay? That's it. Hopefully that was helpful.